There's a trick that we play on ourselves as humans to make life easier, where we convince ourselves that people aren't quite as badly off as they look. It just makes life easier. So the experts at this will pass a beggar and go, nah, he's all right, he probably owns a castle. He's a Viscount of Northumberland. He is, I recognise him. And real experts at this, they could pass a beggar with no legs and go, oh, he's got loads at home. Half crab he is, you don't want to fall for that. And as with any art, it's exciting when somebody takes this one to a new, unprecedented level. And that's happened because Toby Young, this bloke who pops up on the telly for some reason sometimes, has written a review of the film by Ken Loach called I, Daniel Blake. Now, this is a story about a man who's denied disability benefit, even though he's had a heart attack. And it was made after studies of hundreds of cases. But Toby manages to deride all of this as inaccurate nonsense because, he says, the two protagonists are a far cry from the scroungers on Channel 4's Benefit Street. Exactly. This is the same reason why we shouldn't take any notice of Attenborough's misleading films about orangutans, because they're a far cry from the ones in the Jungle Book that kidnap children so that they can learn to make fire. And Toby further outlined his qualifications for passing comment on the reality of all this when he said, I'm no expert, but several aspects of I, Daniel Blake didn't ring true. This is why Toby has quite reasonably become the Conservative spokesperson for all sorts of ideas, because he's not afraid to insist that even though he knows nothing about welfare, he's far more qualified to comment on it than someone who's spent their whole life on it, because he has thought to himself, well, that didn't ring true, while looking out of the window. There should be a programme on television called Toby Young Rings True, in which he gets to the truth of matters by ignoring people who've done things. Tonight, I'll be getting to the truth about sailing round the world by telling Ellen MacArthur that she's full of shit. She's only done it 2 or 3 times, but I thought about it while having a shave. Next week, I'll be telling Dizzy Rascal and Raheem Sterling what it's like to be black in modern Britain. Maybe he's written other equally incisive reviews, such as that documentary about Jimmy Savile didn't ring true to me. It was a far cry from when we saw him just having a laugh on Top of the Pops. Then he goes on to complain that the film is unremittingly depressing, which is such a shame because most job centres are known for their pastel shades and sing-alongs, and the claimants all gather round the piano for a medley of madness hits, and anyone who gets a bit puffed after baggy trousers gets given a free mobility scooter. So Ken Loach should have made a feel-good film about disability benefits, in which a man falls in love with his dialysis machine and the two of them go off to Hawaii and rent out canoes and never sponge off the taxpayer again. Toby goes on to complain, would a man who's had a heart attack really be declared fit for work? But there are 2,400 cases of people who have died in the year after being declared fit for work, which goes to show how fair these tests are, because there are plenty of jobs for corpses. They can act as speed bumps in built-up areas or be maypoles in village fairs, but no, they choose to rot away at the taxpayer's expense. Then he complains that the film is absurdly romantic because the main character, although he's on benefits, is never seen drinking or smoking or gambling. And that's the problem, isn't it, with these politically correct portrayals of the working class. They don't show the reality of them. Drinking foaming beer while singing sea shanties and going, "War!" at a buxom wench while exchanging their kids for a scratch card. The puzzling side to all this is that Toby Young's the bloke who set up one of these free schools, but it failed and collapsed, and he said it was much harder than he thought it would be. But you would have thought it would have been a bonus having him involved. He could have been a history teacher saying, today we're going to learn about the Second World War. Now, I've got a book here with some first-hand accounts of what it was like to fly a Spitfire in the Battle of Britain behind enemy lines. But I wouldn't take any notice of that, as they were there, so what do they know? Doesn't ring true to me.